Oh, my Lanta. All right. I think, did I mess this up a little bit? I don't know. I think I did it. I should introduce myself. I have so many things to say, and I have no idea. I have no idea how this is going to turn out. So I'm going to say what I need to say, and you're probably going to comment what you need to comment, and I appreciate that. So this is the my hot takes on knitting. Oh, what a hot topic video, which I love these videos. I love when other people post them. I love personally when I don't always feel the same about their hot takes because that's the world we live in. And I think it's fun to kind of see things that may not align with our point of view. And that's okay. And if you're okay with that, then welcome to the video. If you know that this is making you feel angry, or if that any reason you think I'm saying things that are unnecessary, this video is not made to be mean. This video is not made to disregard people's choices and what they feel good and wearing or knitting or pattern writing or anything like that. This video is just a fun creative exercise to, for me, myself, no one else, to kind of analyze what I really like in the knitting world, and then also things in the knitting world that might just not sit right with me or maybe just kind of bug me a little bit. There's nothing on here that is like my hill I'm going to die on. I think the knitting world and designers and like there's so many great things out there. I hope that you receive it well and that you all are doing well because I make this video and with care and love, and I think it's a good video to make. I think it's good to have discourse. I think discourse makes us better. This it's once again at the end of the day, it's knitting. It's two needles and some string, maybe more than two needles if you're crazy and love double pointed needles like myself. It's knitting. It's knitting. It's knitting. While I'm sipping my coffee, I will tell you that my name is Leah and I live in Fredericton, New Brunswick. Yeah, I also go by Fathom 5 Knitter. Fathom 5 Knitter is my account for Instagram, so feel free to, if you want to follow along on what I'm making, or just that's pretty much it on what I'm making, or things I've made, or outfits that I'm excited about, or just my knitting day to day. Feel free to touch base with me there. I love to connect there. That's probably my go-to spot. I also have Ravelry. Check out my Ravelry if you want. I want to get better at taking notes. I feel like a lot of people say that. I do put my projects, my yarn, a lot of that basic information on there, and then I always post photos. And it's just like a really fun little spot that's like really pure in the knitting community. I find like a nice little, maybe not pure. Sometimes you see like crazy Ravelry parties, patterns, crazy Ravelry patterns on there, and I'm like, wow, Ravelry. Didn't know you had it in you. Okay, so my hot takes video. I guess I'll say quickly what I'm wearing in case you want to know. This is the coffee run sweater. That is by Kuka Fakika, Veronica Lindberg, and I knit this with a recommended yarn, which I believe is 3 Focolana yarns held together. And I knit this when I got her second knitting book, and it is called Knits to Wear. And it is the only thing I've knit from that knitting book, but I stand by it. I also, yeah, the reason I wore it is because it's like a hot red, in my opinion. It kind of reminds me of those, like, I think they're called like hot red candies. Like, not the cinnamon hearts, but like the ones that look like Mike and Ike's. Are those? Yeah, anyway, makes me feel like one of those. Makes me feel spicy. I'm also wanting to be comfortable, so I'm wearing pants I made. I sewed these pants. That's not why you're here. You're not here to be like, what is she wearing today? You are here because you want to know what I think. So let's do it. As far as how many hot takes I have, my guesstimate is 10. there could be a tangent. There could be a tangent ahead. Warning. Proceed with caution. This kind of starts me up on number one. So, number one is on knitting books. I have many. I have, how many knitting books do I have? Probably have like six, five, maybe five full size like knitting books. And those books can vary from like, and the Knits for Wear book that I knit the sweater out of was like 70 some dollars. It was a gift and I loved it. It was a great gift. Um, and Kuka Fakika is probably one of my just my favorite designers, or she's up there. She was one that kind of got me into the modern knitwear kind of movement, I guess, away from the old pattern magazine um, to needle knitting into kind of young fashion forward knitting. And I love her book and I love the other books I own. I'm not going to list them all because this isn't directed at the designers who make books. In fact, many designers that make books, and even I was flipping through last week the 80, or what is it? No, 52 sweaters Lane publishing book, and that has multiple sweaters I want to knit in it. And knitting books, I think, for me personally, like, they're a luxury. They're kind of a bit of a waste of money. In fact, I have a bit of a strict rule that I don't like to buy patterns until the moment I'm casting it on, even if they're on sale, unless I'm for sure have the yarn. But like, even then, I try not to be enticed by the sales. I try not to, yeah, I'm trying not to buy more books right now. If someone really wants to gift me something and there's a book I really, really like that's like somewhat in a reasonable price range to ask for a knitting book, I will, yeah, happily um accept that as a gift from a dear loved one. But I have knitting's an expensive hobby in the way that I do it. I knit like almost a sweater and a half a month, and I like expensive yarn, and I cannot lie. And knitting books in that area, they oftentimes like have a good amount of sweaters, but they oftentimes have a lot of things that I feel like excited to look at in the same way I'm excited to like look at a fashion magazine or or literally scroll online on Pinterest or Instagram. But I don't dare want to knit every sweater in a knitting book. I don't have any knitting books that I own or that I've seen every pattern in the book and I'm like, "Oh, I know what I'm doing for the rest of my year is I'm knitting every single pattern." And I know I've actually seen some YouTubers who plan to do that and have like say the Knits to Wear book. I know there was one YouTuber who wants to knit like as many patterns as they can from that book, which is incredible. But I don't think that's me. I do occasionally look at my knitting book, especially if I have yarn that I don't have plans for, and I'll like flip through my knitting books and it's great for inspiration. But once again, if I didn't buy all those knitting books and say they cost like 70 Canadian dollars each, and I have five of them, it's like $350 plus tax, so like almost like 400 and something dollars, which is a lot of money for me that I find like patterns normally range for garments like between 8 and like $15 or so. And I think it's a lot more price like economic to just buy the pattern when I'm for sure gonna knit it, and I'm also then kind of excited about it. It's like when you go to buy a regular book and then you put it on your shelf and you're not gonna read it right away. It's easy to kind of forget or lose that kind of like initial lust of like, ooh, I'm so excited to dive into this. Then like a couple months go by and people are talking about other books, and that brand new book you had just loses its magic. And I feel that with knitting books. Unfortunately, we're in a world where there's so many creators and there's so many things that just pop up I don't know if I'm going to be in a test knit next week. Probably not because I haven't signed up for one, but like I don't know what I'm knitting next 1000%. I think knitting books are a luxury, and I think it's okay to buy knitting books. In fact, it's a really great way to support knit knitwear designers, and keep things in your home that inspire excitement. Yeah, I I want to stop buying knitwear books. I want to buy the patterns when they come out, that or I want to buy the patterns when I'm ready to knit them. And I want to pay for patterns too, like especially garments that take a lot of work to design. I'm happy to pay for, but I want to make sure that I'm paying for what I'm knitting, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's a hot take. I think it's just like it's a good thing to reflect on, is ways to cut back, or like ways to make sure you're spending what feeds you, spending money on what feeds you. Yeah, that's hot take 1, knitting books. Let me know what you think. Or if you have a knitting book that you're like in love with. Also, sometimes knitting books go out of print, especially like the Sonnet Garn books. It's a great example. There's like one in particular, one with the Guernsey sweater. I think it's like soft feminine, like something like that. I'll put a picture on the screen, but that one like has quite a few patterns I'd be interested in knitting. And it's like a booklet, so it's not a full book, but like nowhere can I find that knit. And I live in Canada, and I heard like in Canada is like one of the only places in North America. I guess there's not a lot of places outside of US and Mexico. But yeah, I thought that Canada would be more accessible to get these books for some reason. And it's not. Like I'm still struggling to find that booklet. And at the end of the day, when they're out of print and they're not posted online as well, like a lot of pattern designers, you can still buy the patterns from the book online, which is great. I think that's a really I think that's how it should be done. Yeah, in my opinion. Hot take number 2 is on how we knit. I'm gonna clip this one on because boy oh boy. So there's English style knitting, which often is also throwing, people call it, and then there's continental knitting, which is flicking. And when I started getting really into knitting, there's a lot of discourse going on what on how continental knitting is, first of all, faster. Second of all, your knit's going to be more consistent, like more better tension, all of this stuff. And basically, it just like there's lists on like why continental was better. And I even had some friends who let me know that they think I should knit continental because it's better. And I'm like, okay. So I watched videos, I practiced knitting continental. I got the hang of it, but I just wasn't like at the end of the day, it I've been knitting English since I was a child, and I've been knitting. I can knit pretty fast, and it's not even like a speed thing. I don't think knitting is a speed sport. If you're here for speed in knitting, then like maybe check out like track and field or like some other yeah, like NASCAR. I don't know, because knitting isn't meant to be like fast. It's fun to like produce things, and I produce a lot of things. I knit a lot, and I knit because I like it. And but I also was finding myself really trying to be a continental knitter for a while and make this like the way I knit, because then I would be a better knitter if I could knit continental. And sure, it's like a great skill expansion. Great for color work too if you want to use like flick and throw. Like yeah, there's like lots of benefits of continental. And if you're a continental knitter, this isn't me being mad at you for knitting how you find works best for you. But I am an English knitter, and I have never looked at my garments. Well, maybe sometimes, but like the tension isn't something that is make or break. Like I think I'm a very good English knitter, And I think that's wonderful. And I don't think that people should feel pressured to be continental knitters in order to be a good knitter or a better knitter or produce more. Maybe if it's your job, maybe if you're like getting paid to test knit or do like a certain amount of garments, or like this is work for you and not just like a leisurely hobby that's supposed to be like slow fashion, emphasis on slow, then yeah, do the way that's most efficient and effective, and probably also better for your hands at the end of the day. I do understand that, like health and muscles, and yeah, but also like knit however you want. And if you're having a great time, I'm a big fan of like, don't fix what isn't broken, try new things and have fun with it. But if it's not sitting with you, don't feel the pressure to like force yourself to knit that way. If you're an English knitter and you've gone down the same journey as me of like maybe feeling less adequate of a knitter because of that, don't you don't you fret. We're in a club. The English knitter, like, we're the slow fashion people. Woo! Hot hot take 3. Okay. I don't like casting on. Um I think I see a lot of people, I feel like they're my friends. I see a lot of people on YouTube and they love a cast on. They have so many works and progresses, and it's just like, oh, I just couldn't wait to cast it on. And I get it. I love buying yarn. I love looking at patterns. I love pairing yarn with patterns. I love choosing colors. I I love like imagining this beginning of a project, but casting on that part, which I'm actually a little happy I don't like casting on, and I don't know if this is like a super spicy take either, but I just find when you oftentimes cast on, you have to pay attention, a lot more attention. The first row might be a little tight, like if it's a different type of cast on, you have to put the stitch markers where they need to be. You have to like have your gauge swatched. I'm a big gauge swatch person. Yeah, you have to do so many things. And I that's not my favorite part. My favorite part is actually, I have a couple of different favorite parts, but I love to have one project on the go where it's just like stockinette in the round, where all I have to do is knit until it measures like 50 centimeters or something like that. And I can just hang out. Or when it's like kind of like a fun little cable part, like when I've gotten used to a cable and I feel like I'm in a flow, when I'm just like, I feel confident in the project and I'm seeing it come to life in an exciting way. That's the best part. I don't want to cast on because oftentimes it does require paying attention and making sure you're, yeah, checking things, making sure it looks okay, making sure it's what you think it is. Like, it's just a lot more components. I find I can't socialize with my friends or other people as much right on the cast on. I almost need to be in like a dark room for like an hour to make sure everything's set up. And so that's, yeah, why I have 2, 3 whips, maybe 4 whips being works in progress at a time. Yeah, I have friends who have 30 whips. I have people I see who are like really, they start making something and then they just like love, want to cast something else on. And I think that's a little wild. Yeah, and I know this is, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad. I think it's a good thing to want to cast things on and feel so inspired and have like a spark of creativity or energy or like time to do the cast on. But I personally just can't wrap my head around it. I think there's a good chance that when you cast something on and then you don't go back to touch it because you have other whips, that you might start to lose your love or for this item, and then you have to undo it, and it's just, or you might forget kind of the little edits if you didn't take good notes on it, or I don't, yeah, there's just more variations that happen, more things to keep track of. And I find my life at least is so busy as is that I want to keep my knitting as a hobby, that I don't want to add more chaos into my knitting world by having so many whips, or feeling maybe even like the guilt of just like too many things on my needles. And I think that's more of a me statement. This isn't a you statement. If you have multiple whips, yeah, but I even have one whip that's on ice right now that I haven't knit on for months, and I think I need to make changes to it. And in my head, I have no point that I'm like, I need to make a change by this time. I put it down and I don't want to pick it up. I don't even know where I am in the pattern. I don't know what change. Like, it's just, I've been so far away from it for so long that it's like, it's almost like when you call a friend who you haven't spoken to in a long time, and you're like, where do you even start? Like, what do you ask them about? Like, how is life? How is your relationship and apartment and pet? Like, yeah, it's just, it's so, you can't get into like the juice or the like, yeah, the all the details, because you don't know what the details are because it's been so long. That's hot take 3. Hot take 4. Okay, this one comes, I acknowledge, comes from a little bit of a place, not a little bit, a place of privilege. So my husband got me cashmere, 100% cashmere yarn for Christmas 2025, so this year. And I have never knit with cashmere, like 100% cashmere. I've had like a blend where it was like in there 10-15%, but it's always hard to tell when it's like a little bit of a percent, not even 50%. Like, is this fiber, like, what are you doing fully? What's your, like, what are you, yeah, what are you? And so I got 100% cashmere. I got, if you want to know the brand, I got Lang's cashmere, which is like pretty much the equivalent in like weight and style chain knit as Cardiff cashmere. They list it as a DK. It is a sport, in my opinion. Cashmere yarn isn't worth it for me. A little skein of that cashmere, see, a little skein of that cashmere my husband got me cost, for 25 grams, like $26-27. And I wanted to, like, maybe for a little scarf it might be worth it because you might only need 2 of them, maybe 1, I don't know, yeah, depends on the mini scarf or scarf you choose to knit. For me, it was not. I knit the Maggie vest, Maggie, no, just Maggie cardigan, but the short sleeve version out of it, and it's soft, but it isn't as soft as some of the other things I've made. The one thing I will say, it was soft, and because the yarn was like a sport weight, it was also really light. It's like really easy maybe to pack, to bring places, things like that. It's so, like, it's delicate and light. But I've knit with like Surreys that I find just as soft, if not sometimes even softer, just like a little more fluffy. I've knit with other merino blends, or even like merino alpaca, or like just like mixes where, or silks even, where I find it more enjoyable at a better price point. I learned also, I went to a goat farm in Iceland and I learned how they harvest cashmere, which cashmere is from a goat. And it's unlike a sheep where they go and like they shear it or shave it or whatnot, probably multiple times a year or whenever it grows back. Cashmere, they have to brush the goat, and they can only do that like once or twice a year. And what you get from brushing, like brushing your hair, it's not a lot. It's not like full on haircut. So it's really, the goat farm at least I was at, like they were selling their cashmere and it was so expensive, and it just, like, it's not a high yield type of fiber. And I think that's a little bit where I enjoyed it, but I don't think it's worth it to, like, I don't want to knit with it unless it was like gifted or something like that. I think it's fun to have, and I want to try different fibers if they're like ethical. And I'm not saying cashmere is ethical if you get it from like anything, yeah, right places, which Lang's cashmere is. But it was just like the price tag for this garment, because it was cashmere, meh. And it's soft. But once again, I think there's other things that are soft or you don't feel or light or like, can you can simulate it, I think, in other ways. And it wasn't as soft as I thought. Is that crazy to say? Like, it's soft. I think we really put die on the hill of like cashmere is the softest fiber, animal fiber out there. And it might be, but it doesn't mean that other things aren't soft as well. So if you're feeling like you're missing out in the cashmere knitting world and have a hard time biting the bullet because of the cost, take the weight off your back maybe a little bit, that like there's so many other things that are affordable and great options that are like very similar in softness. Yeah, I don't think you're losing out on like the experience of a lifetime with cashmere. So, all right. Okay, I think I'm on 6, which is nice. So 6, I feel like it's a compliment to have your knitwear look store made, to be perfect in your knits, to have the perfect tension, to have no color pooling, to have like to make sure things are as uniform and as crisp as possible. And I think it's nice to have sweaters without color pooling and that are crisp and that you've made no mistakes with, and that you no one would know that you're wearing a knitted item. I think that's great. If you knit like that and it's really enjoyable to knit like that, I think that's wonderful. I also think the magic and the playfulness of knitting is that we're making things with our hands, and that there's a chance that some of the stuff you make, no one will have the same size, color, alterations, pooling, like tension, like the little thing on your shoulder when you made the mistake and that one stitch is a little gappy, so you patch it up, or those types of things. It's it's fun and it's like it's a craft, and sometimes it looks crafty. And I think that's wonderful. I don't think we need to strive to be perfect in everything we do. There's some projects that I strive to be perfect in, like the cable sweater, the Sibylla sweater that I just knitted. I spent a lot of money on the yarn for that, and I really wanted to make this for a long time. And even just like the fact that it was kind of a white sweater, which I like shows a lot of details and things. I worked extra hard to make as little errors as possible, and that was fine. But then the port cardigan that I'm working on right now, I've knit in the movie theater, I've knit at trivia, I've knit all these different places in cars, and I like the yarn ball has fallen and rolled on floors of places, and I like try to keep it clean and I try to avoid those types of things. But I love to knit, so I bring my knitting places, and I love to socialize and knit, and I find knitting and doing things at the same time help me feel engaged and help me, and it's just like it's fun to share, and it's a hand dyed yarn, and I'm not helical knitting or switching my skeins out, and there's a chance that there's going to be color pooling or little areas like that as well. And that's I think that's okay to have garments like that. Like it is, and I think it's actually becoming, may I say, trendy. And that also, it totally depends on your style and what you feel comfortable wearing and like where you work and your functionality with certain things. But like this sweater has like a little bit of color pooling in certain areas as well, but not anything that's like significant. Like if it's going to be something that distracts you from everything, then maybe like do what you want to make you the most happy with your garments or your knitwear or your, yeah, whatever you're making. But also, I think we need to give ourselves sometimes a little bit of grace, that if it doesn't look store made doesn't mean it looks bad. I think things that look handmade and things that are one of a kind and things that like show the story of you and all the places that you've made it can be magical. And it's also like nice to have knitwear things that, if, yeah, there's dirt stains, like experiences that your sweater has experienced that are there, then that's okay as well. I work really hard to like care for my knitted items. Probably doesn't sound like it now. I don't want to not wear things because I'm scared of it being affected by the elements such as coffee spills, but I also don't want that, but I also bring my knitwear home, and if there is a stain or if there is a rip, I try to fix it and patch it and keep little skeins of yarn from my projects to be able to make it something that I will wear again and now just has like an extra layer of story built into it. And that's kind of fun. It's whether or not it's perfect, I think perfection is in the eye of the beholder. Wear it in the color you want and enjoy the process of knitting too. Like, let's balance out the product process situation. Also, someone says, wow, your sweater looks store bought. Like, wow, does my sweater look like it's worth $20 instead of like $200? I know that's not what they're saying, but it's also we're paying. Sweaters aren't made like they used to be. So, that being said, it's meant to be a compliment and take it as a compliment if you are given that from someone. This is a little hot take for, and it's going to be a little one, it's a mini one. It is for beginner knitters. But I think historically, if you wanted to learn to knit, you were given two needles, some bulky yarn, and told you had to go and knit a scarf. And then people start knitting a scarf. And a good, like, it's almost like how tree planters like plant like out of every 20 trees only one make it or something like that. I feel like it's the same thing with people who start knitting scarves. It's like out of all the 20 scarves that were started, only one make it to completion, or and then like half of the completed scarves people try to knit a second or knit something else. It's just like I don't find it's like the biggest successful knitting beginner thing. I think that like if you are a beginner, you know a beginner who wants to knit something, I think you should learn to knit something that you like. I maybe don't start with like a sweater, like especially a detailed sweater or cable sweater or whatnot, but like a hat in the round, yeah, absolutely. You can have your first project be a hat. If you like wearing hats, knit a hat. If you like knitting, I don't know, my one friend knitted like a little dice bag for her D&D campaign, and that was something that she would find practical, so she knit that, and that was her first knit, and I think that's super cool. I think there are alternatives from the scarf knitting beginner situation, and I think we should celebrate the alternatives and encourage them as well, or have more things available. And I can make a video on beginner patterns if you're a beginner. And yeah, just know that you don't have to knit what people tell you you have to knit as a beginner. Like it will be harder to knit maybe some things that are more complicated. That's true. If you have a friend, especially a friend in person, that can help you, that's great. If not, YouTube is like amazing. I don't know, Very Pink Knit is someone who has helped me learn a million techniques. And yeah, I knit what you want. Knit what you want. Many other easy patterns that aren't a rectangle, because I find not a lot of people are wearing scarves all the time. In fact, I don't see like big bulky knitted scarves as something that's like highly worn or sought out after by like the larger population. I would relate it most closely to people who want to learn music, like a musical instrument, and then they're told they have to like play Yankee Doodle. Like that's what I was told when I was learning guitar, is I played like Yankee Doodle and Amazing Grace, which Amazing Grace is a good tune, but some tunes I was told to play I wasn't into, and that's why like yeah, there's so many other songs. If you can learn to play an easy song that you enjoy, you're gonna want to play it more. You're gonna like, if you like rock, you're not gonna maybe want to listen to Yankee Doodle on guitar and be told certain things. So we need to be more custom or open minded to who the person is learning these skills, rather than like how you learn the skills in the like a typical way. Yeah. Okay, I kind of touched on this one a little bit already. I feel like this hot take is less hot as the years go on, and snaps to the world for that. But knitting in public or at work or like places outside of your knitting chair um, is seen as sometimes unprofessional. And if you're knitting, you're not paying attention to what people are saying. And I'll be honest, there's sometimes that I'm watching TV with my husband and he's like, "Leah, you missed this whole scene because you were counting your stitches." That's true. That's a different situation. I will say, than say I'm in a Zoom meeting that is like for work, and I'll put my knitting down if I am in a meeting and I need to speak, or if I'm taking notes, or if there's something that requires my attention in a different way. But if I'm just listening, or if it's just kind of talk, even if I'm talking about like a client or or anything, I can knit and do that at the same time. And in fact, when I'm knitting at work sometimes, or in like at the lunchroom or with people over coffee, this could be me experience, but and where I am with my knitting as well, I'm able to do this, which is great. But I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not thinking about time. I'm not thinking about really anything besides the person. And I'm not knitting things that are, I have to count rows or stitches or things like that in these settings. I'm normally just knitting stockinette in the round, or like knit and purl, or something that I'm able to just do without paying attention. And if I make a mistake, I stop knitting and then I wait until there's a break or something. I'll fix the mistake over the break and then I'll go back to knitting later. That's how I do it. But it helps me. And I think that I see a lot of little reels on Instagram and places that like knitting is so good for your health, and for it makes you good for your brain. It's good for a lot of things, maybe not for like tendonitis, but it is good for many different things. But I don't see a lot of people talking about kind of etiquette with knitting. And I've been doing this for a long time, and my workplace knows it and loves it and has celebrated it in ways which makes me happy and feel really included and accepted. But if I'm in a new workplace, or if I'm in a new like or hanging out with a new person and I really want to knit and I don't know if they understand that what I'm doing isn't me ignoring them, or like it's not the same as me reading a book while they're sitting across from me. It's I'm paying attention and I care about them, and I want to be have good etiquette. But also knitting just allows me to focus in a different way. And I think that there is obviously a stereotype out there, and, or like people think I'm weird, or and I am weird, yeah. But if you're fearful of it, like you never know until you try. And if you're at the stage of your knitting where you can do that as well, I think that you can be professional and you can knit. I think that I see a lot of people doodle. I think I see a lot of people like checking their phone or things that are like less professional than knitting in a Zoom meeting or in the lunchroom. Yeah. Also, you get more knitting done. I think this is number 9. I like Ravelry. Um, this might not be a hot take. I feel like I meet a lot of people who find the website clunky, who find it a website from like the 90s ish or early 2000s, and just like the way it's set up is not great. And I disagree. I really like that Ravelry is a website that doesn't have like ads pop up, that is really embracing the craft and not like too much pressure on likes or pressure on, like it's really there for the design. It's there to access so many free options. I just think Ravelry is, you don't have to subscribe to it. I think it's a really wonderful website. I like how you can filter through things. My one gripe with not Ravelry, but with how Ravelry works, and this is more on designers, is that I oftentimes I love to knit for myself, and then my second person I knit for the most is my mom and my brother. Or oh, no, that's a lie. The second person I knit for the most is my husband, and my husband is a male and has a longer torso, like many things that many men have. So if you're on Ravelry and you say you want to, there's gender options, and there's men, female, unisex. I'm like, great. If you click just men or if you click unisex, it's the same patterns. Pattern designers love to tag their patterns as for anyone, even though there is not a modeled photo or alterations or yarn recommendations or anything for a person with a different shaped body, such as a man. So if I went on Ravelry and wanted a sweater, like say the sweater I'm wearing, I don't know if this is true, but there is a chance that it's tagged under a men can wear it, and that's wonderful because my husband could put this sweater on, but a good chance that the sleeves would be kind of up to mid arm and then it would look kind of cropped on him. And the yarn recommendation for like his side, like, do I just knit it extra large? It's just like your shoulder, the armhole depth, like depth. There's things that come into play when you're knitting for someone who is built like a male. And I just wish that if it wasn't, it's really hard to find patterns that are built for my husband because everyone just tags every pattern as built for like anyone. And I think anyone can wear any pattern. I'm not saying that if you are a female that you can't wear a male, or if you're non-binary or like anything like that. I just wish that there was more. If you're going to tag it, just show photos of different body proportions or have different yarn recommendations or have things in the pattern if you're advertising it for different genders that can kind of help with those types of alterations, which many designers don't do. And so that way Ravelry can be hard to determine good options, which is a pain. Another thing that while I'm on the Ravelry topic, I think this was a big deal with the porcelain sweater. So the porcelain sweater by Le Knit is this beautiful sweater that would like hit the world by storm maybe 2 years ago, and it has like the 3 different color work motifs, and it was gorgeous. And I think people saw the Le Knit photo of her. She wasn't like this at all, but she was wearing the sweater, and it just showed kind of the sweater look. Then there was the best recommendations and all the sizing stuff. Many people, including myself, in fact, I think it's my YouTube profile picture, knit the sweater based on what size was recommended to them. So I think I knit size large or something like that, medium or large, which is normally my size range. And then I put it on. Other YouTubers I know put on their sweater and they're like, this is not the oversized sweater that I thought it was going to be. It was like it was a little bit big, but it's because if you actually read the description of her modeled photo, she's not wearing the size that is recommended for her bust size. You think you're going to buy a sweater that's going to fit in a certain way, and you're following the sizing chart to get the sweater for the size that's recommended for you, and then you knit it and it doesn't fit you like the images show, because yeah, it was just like kind of a fool's errand a little bit. And I love the porcelain sweater. but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I wish that would also be clear. Like, if you are modeling the photo, of course, and Lynette did write what size she was wearing, and I didn't read that. So that's a little bit on me. A little bit it is on me that I didn't read the whole thing, but I do think that it's just like a good etiquette to wear the size that you're recommending. Yeah, lots of little things that could be edited if you're wanting to make your pattern reach a broader audience or advertising it in that way. But my next hot take, it brings us to the end of the video and then also kind of encompasses the end of the year. And it is about gift knitting. I knit a lot, and I knit in public a lot, and I knit at work a lot, and like I knit. And because of that, many people think or ask me to knit for other people or gift knit or expect gift knits or think that is kind of like an open service when it comes to gift knitting. Not a lot, like not everyone. This isn't, if you know me out in the real world, I'm not, there's no one in my mind who I'm targeting. So please don't take it that way. And I do just candidly gift knit for people who don't ask for it as well occasionally. But I think as the time has gone by, I have come to learn that I don't like gift knitting that much. I There's some people I really am happy to gift knit. Like, I really do love knitting my husband a sweater every year, and he gets excited about it and he wears the heck out of it, and I get to witness that, and that brings me joy. And that's really, it's fun to kind of like get him engaged in what I'm knitting in that way as well, because he then gets to like choose the color and like help me buy the yarn, and I don't know. He watched me build it. So he loves that and I love doing that. Christmas rolls around and family is tricky because at first I wanted to knit for everyone, and then my knitting didn't become as enjoyable because there was a timeline, and that timeline was December 25th for people who are in Fredericton. I don't have any of like my own biological family, I guess. I have my in-laws in Fredericton, which is great. So I can like knit until the 24th and then give it to them on the 25th. However, on my side of the family, they all live far away, so then I have to mail it, which is expensive as well. And I just really find it unenjoyable to like, it's great for scrap yarn to like make a hat or something, but I'm starting to realize that I need to maybe at Christmas pick one, maybe two people to knit for who want something, and I want them to want it. I want them to maybe ask for it. I want it to, if like my brother's like, oh, I dream of another pair of socks or a hat, or something like that. Like, it means a lot when there's kind of, I don't want everyone to request things, but when someone genuinely is in need of something and gives me some details on what they want, because that takes the questioning game out of it. Because it sucks to spend time on something that you don't know even if it's going to work out, or if it's their style or it's their color. And then, yeah, I just also find that knitting too many things, then I no longer in December and November end up like knitting any garments for myself. And I just start to like feel a little more of a chore than a craft. And knitting, as much as it does give you things at the end, it's fun to share those things. I just don't want it to be something that, yeah, feels like a chore. Like, I don't want to be stress knitting. That the goal of knitting is the opposite of stress, is to like unwind and chillax and like have fun. And so I try to avoid that. And I feel like sometimes I worry I am selfish in that way, because I do love people, believe it or not. And but it also, yeah, I just can't knit for everyone I love, especially at Christmas time. If I don't knit for you, I doesn't mean I don't love you. Here is something that I do love to do, and I did this with my aunt last year, and it was incredible. Is I went through the things that I've made that may not make me feel as much joy as I intended before, but I spent a lot of time. I care a lot about the item, but I put, like, say, a sweater on, and I'm like, oh, this isn't actually my color, or oh, this like fits a little big, or oh, this is like, or I have something similar of this, and I made it a while ago, and it's just like not top of my mind. Looking at those knits, and they're, it's not that I don't love them, it's not that I do love them, but it's, if I have loved ones who see a knit that I've made and really, really like it. Like, for example, the porcelain sweater, I like it, but it just doesn't fit me the way I wanted it to. And seeing it on other people, if there's someone who like wore it and felt like $1,000,000 and wants to care for it and like recognizes the value of it, that is like the best case scenario. Because for me, what I want most out of my knitting is for it to be loved and worn. It's sitting here being mine and like not being in my regular rotation of things that I wear just is crappy. Yeah. But then the time pressure of Christmas knits and all these other like, so I think this should be a form of gift knitting that, just because it's not new or knit intended for someone, doesn't mean that you didn't spend like 50, 60 hours on it. You love it. You spent like the fiber that you're using isn't precious. Like, it's all these things that, if you're like me in any form of knitting, thrift knitting, like giving away things that maybe you knit an intention for yourself, that doesn't, yeah, should be just as accepted. The thought's still there, still a handmade craft. Let me know what you think about that. I know regifting, especially when or like gifting something that's used, is seen as like not loving someone, or like, I there's probably something there. Maybe I'm nuts in thinking that, but don't I think gifting, I think it's good for the earth to give someone something instead of just like hold on to it. Like, the goal of an item is to be loved and used and cared for. In fact, I had a friend who just asked me recently, if I was an inanimate object, which one would I be? And I was like, I want to be something that is like passed down and like get to be loved and experienced. And if these sweaters that we make, or these garments, or these hats or scarves, or whatever you're making, they're meant to last, they're meant to be loved. And if you don't have the capacity to give it the love that you want, then like, have other people do it. And just as long as they recognize like the how to care for it, if you have those people in your life, that should be enough. New form of gift knitting, make this a movement. All right, my voice is starting to feel a little shot, so I am going to end it there. I could do a part 2 on this topic. So, unclip. Yes, if you want a part 2, let me know. My next podcast video will probably be a standardized podcast where I talk more about what I'm knitting, which you may have seen last time, or yeah, and I talk more just about general things. I just got a lot of yarn and I have a lot of plans, and I'm just so giddy about it. So I want to dive into that. So I'm thinking of doing alternative podcasts, where one podcast is just like my day-to-day knitting standardized podcast, and then one being fun topic. So if there is any type of podcast or knitting content that you like on YouTube that you want to see me chat about, let me know. Also, I expected not a lot of doing this YouTube. Like, I didn't think that people would want to watch me talk about it. I thought that this was going to be like a personal journey of me just trying to put myself out there and be creative and like just, yeah. but I have gotten comments from people I don't know who are saying nice things and who are subscribing and doing all of that, or like following me on Instagram. And yeah, each one of those comments really does mean a lot. And you being here and watching this, and even if you don't agree with me, it means a lot. So if you did that, you're great. I see you. I hope that you're having a good spring. Take care and see you next time.